Ona's voice rang out, formally declaring the victor of the duel. By Edward and Sidward's surrender, she stated, the winner of this duel is Lest. Zira, the Marquis's first wife, watched the scene unfold in utter disbelief. She reacted with an exclamation of shock, muttering to herself that it was impossible, that her own sons had been defeated by a concubine's child. Overcome with shock, she fainted, and Ona quickly moved to handle her, urging her to be careful. A maid rushed over, expressing her concern for Lady Zira. Marquis Gad Albion stood in a daze, completely stunned by the outcome. Ilna turned to him, calmly asking for his acceptance of the result. He reacted with a sound of frustration, before begrudgingly affirming that he understood and that Lest was the victor. After a final, angry exclamation, he turned and left the training grounds. Edward and Sidward cried out in a frightened tone, pleading for him to wait as they followed quickly behind. Ilna then turned her attention to Lest, complimenting him on his good work. She admitted that while she hadn't doubted his claim of defeating the Gale Wolf, the duel's result had frankly surprised her. Lest humbly replied that he was just glad he hadn't displayed an unsightly battle unworthy of her student. Ilna laughed, playfully reminding him that the other two were also her students. She expressed her hope that this incident would encourage them to train harder. Regardless, well done, Lest, she said, before adding that she had several points she was curious about, including his final strike. Lest reacted with a jolt of shock. His internal thoughts raced, acknowledging that he had tried to keep the strike subtle by thinly cloaking his sword in wine magic to avoid detection, but his master, as expected, had seen right through it. Ilna smirked, telling him to relax, as she didn't intend to interrogate him about everything. She had only one question. Ilna observed that the moment Edward and Sidward were about to unleash their techniques, Lest had seemed to hesitate for an instant. She asked if he had been considering a countermeasure other than destroying their weapons. Lest hesitated in his reply. The narration then explained Lest's thought process. It was true that he could have subdued them without using Matoi Kazutachi. While completely blocking their powerful skills would have been difficult, he could have at least deflected the trajectory of their initial strikes with his wooden sword. This would have meant inducing friendly fire, but the method had several problems. For one, it would rely on using the opponent's strength against them, meaning they might refuse to acknowledge his own power. Another was the possibility of them being seriously injured, which Lest wanted to avoid to prevent the hassle of them complaining later. For those reasons, he chose to destroy their weapons instead, a move that Lady Ilna had apparently seen right through. Lest sighed inwardly, admitting to Ilna that he was still no match for her. Ilna naturally agreed, proudly stating that she was his master, after all. She laughed heartily at the situation, and Lest simply watched. The narration noted that, in any case, Lest had secured a certain standing within the Albion household. Lest then decided to thank his tamed monster. He mentally activated his extra-dimensional residence skill, calling for Geralt to come closer. Geralt, however, excitedly burst out. Lest reacted with a pained exclamation, urging the monster to stay back as the space was too cramped. Geralt seemed to understand and backed away. Lest thanked Geralt, acknowledging that it was thanks to the monster's wine magic that he could beat the twins. He then reflected on the future. Winning the duel was good, he thought, but he needed to think ahead. Geralt made a sound of agreement. Lest opened his system window, which displayed a taming notification. Tame slot limit reach 1/1. It stated that to perform the next tame, the limit must be increased. Lest confirmed his suspicions, realizing this was his main bottleneck. The narration explained that while the tame skill was extremely powerful, the number of tame slots was limited, and to subjugate new monsters, Lest needed to raise his skill level. He recalled that in the game, the original Lest had only ever subjugated about 5 monsters, and while he gained considerable strength from them, he became instantly weak if his monsters were defeated first because he had neglected his own training. Lest affirmed to himself that to prevent that from happening to him, he needed to raise his own level as well. He knew that while late-night training could improve his stats, the most efficient growth came from defeating monsters to gain experience points. By taming Geralt, he now possessed a strength close to B rank despite being a C rank, and felt he could handle reasonably unexpected situations. He inwardly expressed a desire to go to the Ars forest right than to fight monsters, but knew they would never let him back into the forest now. Les concluded that for his next tame, he absolutely wanted it to be that one. On-panel text ominously noted that deep within Ars forest lives that monster. And so, the narration concluded, the next day, in a surprising turn of events, Les's problem was finally solved. Les's final thought was a resolute confirmation that it was definitely that guy.